Okay, looking good. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to day 2 of the Definiti 401k class. It's the 30th annual. We're pleased to be able to present this for you today, and I just wanted to say welcome. My name is Elke Gibba. I'm Director of Marketing for Definiti, and it's my honor to have you here today. If you go to the next slide, some of you may have noticed that I am not Brian McCabe. Brian McCabe is our general manager for Definiti, and he had some pressing business that he had to take care of today. So I am stepping in and serving as MC to do some introductory points this morning and to welcome you to the session. A few quick reminders before we get started into today's session, which is all about fiduciary services. We're going to learn about 316, 321, and 338, thanks to our speakers. So a few pointers. We are going to have a Q&A segment. If you have a question during this session, please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can enter your questions there. We'll be monitoring those. And then when we get to a spot at the end of the presentations, we'll be asking those both for our Definiti representatives and for our Leafhouse representatives. So be sure to enter those in. The other thing I want to let you know is that we do record these sessions, and we'll be making those sessions available on the same website where you came today to log in. And we hope to have those up by the end of the week. So we'll let you know via email when those are available. If you have a colleague or if you knew somebody who wanted to attend and wasn't able to make it, let them know. We are recording and we'll have that available to you. So let me talk just a minute again about Brian, give you an idea about who he is and what he does for the company. Brian is general manager, and really his role is operational based. So we have a large DC and DB admin team, and Brian really oversees the general operations of all of those systems, making sure that things are running smoothly. And he is the one that coordinates all of the different services that we make available to you. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have you have him in front of you at some point in the future. But we do want you to know who Brian is and how disappointed he was. He wasn't able to make it today. So let's get ready for our next presentation. Today, as I said, we're going to talk about 316, 321, 338, all of these different fiduciary services. And we're going to start off with Dana Tracy and Melanie Williamson, who will be speaking about Definiti's side in offering 316. So Dana, I will pass it off to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Elke. Appreciate everybody hopping on today. As Elke mentioned, my name is Dana Tracy. I am the Regional Sales Director for the Southeast for Definiti. And joining me is Melanie Williamson, who is the Director of our 316 service team. Today, we're going to be talking about 316 fiduciary services, what they are, and why you may want to consider them for your company. I'm going to start off with an interesting statistic here for you. 82% of plan sponsors say that fiduciary matters are important to them, yet over a third of plan sponsors don't even know that they are considered a fiduciary. This is critical because something can be important to you, but you don't even know that it's an issue or need to worry about it because you don't even know it exists. So what exactly is a fiduciary? An ERISA fiduciary is anyone who exercises discretionary authority or control over a plan or its assets, or who gives an investment advice to the plan or its participants. And most of the time, if you sponsor a 401k plan, you'll most likely have discretion over the plan in some capacity. And so this makes you a fiduciary. ERISA outlines several duties that a fiduciary of a 401k performs. However, these are not all encompassing. These include determining that fees are reasonable for the plan and its participants, that the investments offered are diversified, that the terms of the plan document are being followed, and the decisions about the plan and its investments are made in the best interest of the plan participants and their beneficiaries. There are two main types of fiduciaries. The first subset are investment fiduciaries. And as Elke mentioned, Renee is going to get into more about what the investment fiduciaries are today. So I'm going to hold off on that. But 321 and 338 fiduciaries, in a nutshell, play a role in overseeing the plan assets or investments and are required, like all fiduciaries, to act under the ERISA guidelines. What we're going to focus on more today is what is called a 316 fiduciary. A 316 fiduciary is a service provider hired by an employer to manage the day-to-day administrative work for a 401k or qualified plan. A 316 fiduciary works with the plan sponsor to ensure that the plan is created and managed according to the criteria set forth by ERISA. So in the world of fiduciary liability, clearly less is more. This may seem counterintuitive, but most of the fines assessed by the Department of Labor and the IRS are not related to the improper investments, but actually to how the plan is administered, which is related to the 316 code. This, of course, is usually done by an in-house employee or even the plan sponsor or owner of the company. Errors caused by these employees or individuals tend to be very costly. So for example, failing to remit the Form 5500 has a Department of Labor fine of over $2,200 per day. So why consider adding a 316 fiduciary or 316 services to your plan? Well, it helps meet the duty of prudence by providing expert retirement plan and management services. It helps to reduce the day-to-day workload of a plan sponsor. And it helps reduce the risk of violating complicated ERISA regulations. There are a wide variety of clients that can benefit from 316 fiduciary services, but most tend to fall into one of three categories. Clients who are busy running their company with little or no time to focus on the retirement plan. Clients that are concerned with compliance and fiduciary risk, or clients that have limited staff and need assistance with monitoring plan activities such as payroll or distribution of notices. Here I have listed the top 12 most common plan mistakes. They include not updating the plan document, not following the terms of the plan document, not using the plan's definition of compensation properly, employer matching errors, not satisfying non-discrimination testing, not notifying eligible employees about the plan or allowing them to make contributions, exceeding the IRS limits on deferrals, not participating deferrals timely, participant loan issues, participant hardship issues, top-heavy plan issues, and not filing a Form 5500 or distributing the summary annual report to participants. All of these can have pretty hefty penalties associated by the Department of Labor, IRS, or both. So now that I've got you pretty significantly panicked, here's where I tell you not to worry, because this is where we can help. So I'm going to hand it over to Melanie, who's going to tell you a little bit about how the Fiduciary Studio can integrate with your plan to help alleviate a lot of these issues.
Thanks, Dana. That was great. You're right, don't panic. We're here to help. The Fiduciary Studio works with Definiti as a TPA to help you with some of the responsibilities as fiduciary on your plan. Some of the items are, we operate as the name 316 administrator in the plan document, so co-fiduciary with you as a plan sponsor. We confirm and ensure that revisions to your summary plan description and participant disclosures are correct. If any amendments happen to your plan document, these documents need to be updated. So we make sure that they're included in those notices that you give out to your participants. We monitor the timeliness of plan amendments and restatements. Plan amendments are those changes to your plan document that you elect, and restatements are required every 6 years by the IRS. And if you're familiar with your plan document, you're probably in the middle of those restatements right now. It's a rolling 6-year cycle based on the IRS, not based on when you had your plan. So we just make sure that you meet those requirements by the deadlines. We will determine eligible employees for you and notify you and or your participants of their eligibility in the plan. This would include enrollment kits, the initial notices to these participants so they know the plan exists, and kind of help you get that information out to your participants so they know that they can participate in your plan. We will work with your record keeper to manage automatic enrollments programs if you have that in your plan, which includes automatic increases and opt-outs. We will work with your TPA or Definiti, who is the TPA, to monitor forfeitures annually and review vesting. So we'll make sure that you're aware that you have forfeitures pending, and we'll make sure that the record keepers get updated with their vesting for the current year. Well, this one's a duplicate, sorry about that. Monitor timeliness of payroll submissions and employer contribution funding. We will not submit the payrolls under the 316 service, but we will quarterly go out and review to make sure those payrolls, whoever's submitting them, is doing them timely and within the required time frame. If we find an issue with it, we will reach out to you as plan sponsor, and we'll work with that provider to make sure that they correct their processes so that it doesn't happen again. We will review and sign participant distributions and loans. This includes looking at hardship provisions and making sure that your participants meet the hardship qualifications to be able to take their money. So we'll look at that documentation for you and not have you have to determine whether or not it meets the hardship requirements. We will review and sign your 5500 and the 8955. We will review qualified domestic relations orders. We'll ensure that they meet the compliance of the plan document, and we'll also make sure the participants, both the alternate beneficiary and the participant, is aware of what we read the Quadro to be as, and make sure that it's processed accordingly to the Quadro document. We will review what the TPA provides to you in their annual valuation package, just to make sure that every non-discrimination testing that applies to your plan is completed and documented. We will deliver your notices electronically to participants for you. This is kind of a big thing. We also work with a provider if we have to mail them because they don't have access to email readily. We will also help you get those sent out via mail timely and within the time frame that's required. Additionally, we'll work with you if you have other things that come up. You know, we can discuss your plan with you. We can go through any provisions you're looking at and help with anything else you need from a plan sponsor perspective. One of the key things that I like to think of is, you know, this is our expertise. A plan sponsor brings a plan in, but they're not an expert on everything that's required to be done for the plan. We're there to be that expert for you so that we and you get everything done that you need to. That doesn't mean that you're completely off the hook with being involved with us, but we'll monitor it for you and make sure you're on top of things. So who are the basic parties involved when you have a plan? So it's all centers around you as plan sponsor. You're the one that elected to bring this plan in for your employees, and you've got the plan document and you set up all the investments and you get everything ready to go. You'll then hire a TPA. The TPA will make sure your compliance testing is completed, will help process loans and distributions, will answer questions for you. You have a financial advisor involved. They help you pick out the right funds, they monitor those funds and make sure they're prudent, and they work with your participants if they need any investment advice. You also have your record keeper. Your record keeper is the person that holds the assets. So they're the ones that are going to keep the participant balances, they're going to hold the money, and they're going to invest per the instructions. And then you have the Fiduciary Studio or your 316 administrator. We work side by side with you as a plan sponsor to make sure that you're meeting all the requirements that you're required to have for sponsoring a plan. So who does what? So the four main parts of the plan sponsor: your TPA, your 316 administrator, and your record keeper. So as a plan sponsor, you're the main contact for your service providers as well as your participants. As the plan sponsor, you're required to provide to the TPA and the record keeper information timely so that we can meet the IRS deadlines for non-discrimination testing and 5500 filings. You're responsible for working with your financial advisor to provide the investments and related requirements to have investments in your plan. And you're required to make timely contributions. What your TPA does for you is they help you design your plan. They maintain the plan document. They do your annual administration. They'll perform any required non-discrimination testing. They'll create your Form 5500 and submit it to you for signature. And if you elect, TPAs can also submit payroll files for you. And then they work with your participants to do withdrawals from the plan, whether it be in service or as a terminated participant. The 316 fiduciary is co-fiduciary on your plan with you as plan sponsor. We ensure that the plan documents are kept up to date. We distribute notices to your participants. We review annual administration for completeness. We'll sign your 5500. We'll monitor your payroll processing and make sure that there's procedures in place with all your providers to do this timely. And we'll review participant withdrawals. And then your record keeper's main function is education for your participants. Typically they have a website, and so support for that website. They'll provide your investment fund notices, and they usually have their own administrative forms that they would like you to complete to do any activity within the plan. All right, so we've made it to the end of the presentation itself. Dana and I have put together a few common questions that we've had, and we're going to kind of do a Q&A with each other, and then we can open it up to any questions that you guys might have.
Yeah, so these are questions that as sales director and as Melanie as the head of the 316 team, we have heard more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. So we figured these would be good questions to ask and answer, so that since they seem to be, frequently asked. So Mel, does the Fiduciary Studio clearly state the responsibilities of each party?
Yes, we do. We have a very detailed service agreement that outlines what we will do as 316. We also put together a detailed memo on a per client basis. It's very individualized based on who your record keeper is, who your TPA is, what they can and cannot do, and we provide exactly who's going to be responsible for what and when.
What aspects of eligibility does the Fiduciary Studio handle?
So we will partner with your payroll company and your record keeper to have online access to your accounts, so that we can go out there on a periodic basis and make sure that payroll is being submitted timely through the right channels. We download census from there directly for you. So at the end of the year, if you're familiar, you normally have to give us a full census. We're able to go out to your payroll company and download that ourselves. This census includes stuff like your social security numbers, your name, compensation, year-to-date hours, stuff like that. That allows us to do eligibility counts for you, as well as provide your TPA with an annual census timely.
Okay, so that thing at the end of the year that you always ask us to send, you can do that, right?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Does the Fiduciary Studio provide custom options for 316, or is it a set it and this is what you get?
So the 316, it's one option and it's all inclusive. We do allow you to pick and choose, but there isn't any, it's not an a la carte menu. It's 316, here's what it is. But say you really, really want to sign your distribution forms, we're going to let you. There is an add-on service for governance. It is one of our only add-on services, and it basically provides, I think the best selling point for governance is for that annual fee. If you're ever audited, we will provide a no-cost service to support you in that audit. And there's a quarterly memo that we'll send out, kind of looking at your plan on a quarterly basis, what's going on, what's happening with yours specifically compared to markets and stuff like that. But for the most part, 316 is just one service, and then we'll go through and pick the things we can or cannot do. For example, like if you have an in-house payroll and you don't have online access, it's going to be hard for us to do some of our services if we can't have access to your in-house payroll that might be on a local desktop in your building.
Got it. So what happens if the data submitted to the Fiduciary Studio has an error?
So first, from the 316 perspective, we're going to look at that data and determine where that came from. If it came from your TPA, we're going to work with the TPA to get that fixed. If it came from the payroll provider, we're going to work with them to get it fixed. So we're kind of a monitoring agent. We're not necessarily doing a lot of the work, but we will work with them to make sure they get better processes in place to not have that error happen again.
Okay. So if something is screwed up, who fixes it?
Depends on where it came from.
Okay.
If if it's the TPA, we'll obviously work with that TPA to do the right tax forms, do the right corrections, get it all settled. It's their response. If it's their mistake, then they're obviously liable for any penalties that come up. If it's, you know, payroll and done internally, we just need to work and figure out where it came from and who's responsible for it. Again, we monitor to make sure we monitor the things that you should be monitoring, that you just don't have time to monitor. And we make sure that going forward, we cover them and make sure they're fixed, and we have processes in place so that it doesn't happen again.
Okay. How do you document the annual actions that you do?
So we'll provide a kind of a roll-up year-end summary of what happened. You'll get your valuation package like you normally do from your TPA. We'll take that information and we'll put it in a big summary for you so that you'll see that you've addressed all your discrimination testing. We've looked at all your payrolls, they were all timely, and kind of address every topic that we review for you. So you have something in your files to say that we were prudent and you did what you're supposed to do as a plan sponsor.
Okay. You mentioned something about audit support. What will the Fiduciary Studio, how will the Fiduciary Studio support you in the event of an audit?
So we work with your TPA. If you have the governance piece add-on, obviously that it's no cost to you, and we will work with the TPA and the agent to do anything that the audit requires. If you don't have the add-on from 316, we can still help out, but there's an hourly rate for that. But we are there to support you as with plan sponsor as far as an audit is concerned, either with the TPA or directly.
Okay. I'm way too busy running my company, and I really don't want to have anything to do with the 401k plan. Will 316 help and fix this for me?
Yes and no. We definitely will help, but we cannot 100% take it away from you as plan sponsor. There's just some things that the plan sponsor is going to have to deal with. But we are there to make sure the plan sponsor does everything they're required to do. And we will reach out to say if we run into any kind of issues. But there's not always things that we have the power to fix. But with us together, we definitely can get things done.
Okay. And hopefully a lot easier.
Yeah.
I'm already paying for a 321 fiduciary on my plan as part of the record keeper and investment lineup. Do I need to pay more for a 316?
It's two different things. I think as Dana mentioned, and I'm sure Renee is going to go into more detail, the 316 is on the administration side. So it's on the compliance and legal end. It has nothing to do with your investments and investment policies. So it is something that all of it together works really well together to meet all the needs that you have as a fiduciary. But they are completely different actions.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mel. Now we wanted to open it up to some of the questions that have been asked in the Q&A. Someone says, Definiti is already doing many of the 316 activities. Is this changing?
I guess I'm not sure which activity you're speaking to, because obviously if we're not named 316, we can't be doing the 316 activities. I'll use hardships for an example. If Definiti is processing your hardship for you, they're going to take instruction from you whether it meets the hardship criteria or not. What you have as an added benefit from 316 is that we'll actually require that we get the backup and make sure it meets the hardship guidelines. So it doesn't put the onus on you to approve that hardship. We make sure it meets all the legal requirements.
Okay. Is there a recommendation for fiduciaries to carry a separate liability insurance policy, or is this oftentimes covered under other types of business insurances?
I'd have to check for sure, but I think it's covered. Usually you get an add-on, a ERISA bond added on to your corporate policy that covers the plan itself. I don't know of any other fiduciary insurance, but I can definitely look into that. Dana, do you know?
Yeah, I have heard of some marketing companies suggesting fiduciary liability coverage. I don't know that it provides any additional coverage than an ERISA bond, or any further coverage than you would get by doing these services that you would normally do. So frankly, I think it's a marketing item versus something that has been, legally challenged.
Right. Okay.
There's no requirement, I should say.
All right. Do we have any more?
That is it.
Did I lose my voice?
If anybody does have any additional questions, Melanie and I are happy to answer. Feel free to drop them in the box. Otherwise, Elke, we'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dana and Melanie. Really appreciate that. 316 can be kind of complicated, which is why we wanted to spend an entire day on it and really make sure that you all had an opportunity to ask some questions and get a little bit more insight into how a 316, and for that matter, 321, 338 might make your life a little easier. I do want to promote Melanie Williamson is going to be our next author for an Insights article specifically on 316, and that will be sent out via email. So if you are already receiving insights from Definiti, that will come out later this November, and you'll have access to that. And so be watching for that. It gives even more detail, including a whole list of frequently asked questions that I think Dana and Melanie went over just a minute ago. So be watching for that. So thank you, ladies, for sharing your insights today. Really appreciate it. So at this point, we'll learn a little bit more about 321 and 338. And Renee will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me here. My name is Renee Mrosowski. I'm the Director of Institutional Services at Leafhouse Financial. We are a 338 fiduciary, and I'll talk a lot about what that means. Personally, I am a registered fiduciary with DALBAR certification, and I have about 20 years of experience in the retirement industry, mostly with a record keeper, which we talked about a little bit ago, and the last 3 years with Leafhouse. So I wanted to talk to you today about understanding the difference between a 321 and a 338. Both of them are financial advisors, but their tasks are significantly different. Lisa, can you go ahead and advance the slide? Thank you. So we're going to talk about the roles of financial professionals, what their responsibilities are, how they make investment decisions, the benefit of using a third-party investment manager. We're also going to talk about the differences between 321 and 338, how it can reduce your risk as a plan sponsor, and your responsibilities that will remain with you even if you hire one of these professionals to help you. And at the very end, we have an investment management manager checklist that you can use to help you decide what type of investment manager you need, and if the investment manager that you're looking at meets your needs. Lisa? Thank you. So a little bit about Leafhouse and why we are qualified to talk to you about this. Leafhouse has been in business since 2009. We focus on investment discretionary services for retirement plans. So what that means is we're not personal financial advisors. We're not looking at individual accounts. We're not looking to do financial advising for individuals. We focus on retirement plans. So all of our clients will have a plan sponsor, such as yourself. They will have a record keeper, a TPA, sometimes a 316. We do have a published investment methodology, which you can review, and we're one of the largest national investment fiduciaries in the country. As of the end of last quarter, we had $15 billion in assets under management. We work in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. And we have a certification from an outside party called DALBAR. They're sort of the J.D. Power and Associates of the financial industry. And we'll talk a little bit about why you care about that in a few minutes. Lisa, go ahead and go to the next slide if you don't mind. Thank you. So the role of a financial professional. Their job in a nutshell is to help you with the investments for your plan, but also to help you manage your plan, to provide you with the support and assistance that you need and provide you with the resources that you may not have. Your business is not to run the investments. Your business is to run your company. Lisa, if you'll go to the next slide, please. So financial professionals face some of the same challenges that you face, right? They have to make sure that what they are doing for their clients is scalable, which means they're able to reproduce it in an efficient manner, but also that they are different from their competitors. And of course, decompression is a concern for every industry. Everyone wants to get the best possible deal. And so you want to make sure that you're earning the money as a financial professional that your clients are paying you. It's also a highly regulated industry, and the regulatory environment is constantly changing. And part of the task of a financial advisor is to keep up with those regulations and all of the different advice that's coming from the Department of Labor and the IRS and all of the regulatory bodies that govern financial advisors. And also a lot of them will help you pick third-party providers. Lisa, the next screen, please. So primarily when you look for an investment advisor for your plan, you're looking at them to help you with your investments, but you're also looking to them for things like helping you increase participation in your plan, helping the people who are participating in the plan increase their deferrals, and also helping you decide which plan designs are best for your company's goals. Ways that they accomplish this are to get to know your business, to build relationships with your key decision makers, in other words, your CEOs, the head of HR, your CCO, the owners of the business. It's important that a financial advisor know the goals of their clients so that they can help them advance those goals. And on the participant side, they're going to participate in things like enrollment meetings. They're going to provide participant education or coordinate with other providers for those types of services. And quite often they'll do one-on-one meetings with your participants to help them decide the best way to approach their retirement savings. The entire goal of a retirement plan is to encourage participants to put away money for retirement so that when they come to the end of their work life, they can retire with dignity. And that is your financial professional's role in your services. Lisa, the next slide, please. So we talked a little bit before about the different professionals that will help you with your plan. Obviously, there's the record keeper. As we know, they're going to have the website that your participants log into. They're also going to do the trading, working with the custodian to move the money back and forth. They're the ones who crunch the numbers for you. Your third-party administrator is going to administer the plan, and your investment manager is going to help you with the investments and reduce the investment risk and liability that you face as a plan sponsor. Lisa, the next slide, please. So here are a few of the details of what each one of these providers gives you. We already talked quite a bit about 316, and so of course I don't need to go into that. We're going to focus primarily on the investment manager. Which fiduciary model is right for you? Lisa, next slide, please. The investment decisions that an investment manager will help you make are the Qdia Selection. This is the qualified default investment alternative. This is where participants who don't make a selection, who don't choose funds in the retirement plan, but are contributing, this is where their money is going to go. So it's a very important decision to make. What are you going to use as your Qdia? Obviously, they will also help you with the investment selection. Their job is also to monitor the investments and provide you with quarterly reporting on those investments. When a fund change is needed, they will also provide you with the mapping strategy to make sure that if you're removing a fund from your lineup, that you're not leaving a gap in the asset categories that your participants need in order to have a diversified portfolio. Lisa, the next slide, please. Thank you. So what are you looking for? You're looking for value, obviously. You're looking for efficiency, and you're looking for scalability. The value that an investment manager can bring to your plan is twofold. One, they have the financial expertise and experience to be able to help you make these decisions. And secondly, they can often provide you with access to lower cost share classes or collective investment trusts, which are CITs. Those are relatively new to the retirement plan industry, but they can really help you realize some cost savings. They can also customize your lineup construction. And since they are familiar with the underlying investments and prospectus and things of that nature, they can help you with ESG or socially responsible screening. Also, you want someone who is independent. You don't want someone who is tied to a specific record keeper or tied to a specific fund family. You want someone who doesn't have conflicts of interest and someone who can help you mitigate the liability. Next screen, please. So how do you get that? How do you get someone who's going to help you mitigate the liability for the investments in your plan? I'm sure everyone has heard about all of the lawsuits that have happened about retirement plan investments recently. You want to make sure that you protect not only yourself, but also your participants. So next screen, please. Thank you. So what's the difference? So we talked a little bit earlier about what a fiduciary is and the fact that you as a plan sponsor is a fiduciary or are a fiduciary. Your financial advisors are fiduciaries as well as your 316. The part of ERISA, which is the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, that speaks about investment professionals is Section 3. Subsection 21 and subsection 38 are the parts that differentiate between a non or co-discretionary investment advisor and a full investment manager. That's why we refer to them as 321 and 338, because that's the section of ERISA that defines those roles. Now, a fiduciary has a duty of loyalty to the beneficiaries of the plan participants, which includes, as I mentioned earlier, avoiding conflicts of interest, not using their position of competence to further their own interests, and make sure that you manage the retirement plan and the assets solely in the best interest of the plan participants and you make good choices about investing the plan assets. That high duty of care requires that a fiduciary inform themselves of all the material and information prior to making a decision, and that you make a prudent decision based on that information. So how are you supposed to do that in relation to the investments in your plan? Because unless you are in the financial industry, that's not your wheelhouse. That's not your specialty. So you hire someone to help you with it. You can hire a 321, which is a co-fiduciary. They make recommendations to you about the investment decisions. They monitor the selections and they share responsibility for the investment lineup. But in the end, if you hire a 321 co-fiduciary, the responsibility for approving those selections and making sure that any fund changes happen reside with you. The 338 is a little bit different. They have full discretion over the fund lineup. What that means is that they can make decisions and enact those decisions to change the funds in your plan without getting permission from anyone. That's what it means when we say we implement investment decisions on behalf of the plan sponsor. So with the 321, they're going to say, I recommend that you do this. And you'll say, okay, based on the research that I have done to the investments that you've laid out, I think it's a good decision. And I'm going to sign the documentation that my record keeper needs in order to make those changes. With a 338, they're going to say, we are going to make this change. And then they are the ones who are signing the piece of paper to tell the record keeper to make the change. Also, a 338 is required to have their own investment policy statement. With a 321, sometimes they'll provide you with an investment policy statement, but the responsibility for making sure there's an investment policy statement for your plan is still on you. A 338 has their own investment policy statement since they do have discretion. And it allows by hiring a 338 allows you to offload most of the responsibility for a lineup rather than sharing it with someone. Lisa, the next screen, please. Thank you. So the risk reduction for a plan sponsor. If you hire a 321 as an investment professional, you're going to get moderate protection. If you hire a 338, you're going to get the most protection available under the law because they take responsibility for the investment related decisions. Does that mean you're completely off the hook? Sorry, absolutely not. There are still things that you are responsible for as the plan sponsor. If you hire a 321, a non-discretionary co-fiduciary, your job is still to monitor that 321, make sure that they are doing the job that you're paying them to do. Same thing with the 338. Your job is to monitor the process of the 338. Are they reviewing the investments on at least a quarterly basis? Are they providing you with the information? Are they providing the mapping? Are they following through in the case of 338 with those changes? Did they make the changes they said they were going to make if they're a 338 discretionary advisor? If they're a 321, that second part doesn't apply. They tell you what they think you should do with your lineup, and then it's your responsibility to make sure that that happens. Now, most of them will assist with that. They will call or email the record keeper and explain to them what they want to do. And then the record keeper will assist you with the paperwork involved. And a lot of times the advisor will look over the paperwork involved and make sure that it is in line with their recommendations. And then you sign on the dotted line. A 338 signs on the dotted line for you. Next slide, please. Okay, so that we know the difference between a 321 and a 338. So the question is, how do you select the right one? Lisa, the next slide, please. The first question you have to ask yourself is, which type of financial advisor is the right fit for me and my company? Do I want someone who is going to come to my meetings, talk to my committee members, and tell us what they think we ought to do, and then step back and allow us to make that decision and allow us to debate the merits of their advice? Or do we want someone who is going to say, this is what needs to happen, explain their reasoning behind it, and then take the actions? So do you want to maintain the control over signing on the dotted line to make those changes happen? Or do you want someone else to take that? With that control and responsibility comes liability. So which one's the better fit for you? Also, you're going to want to ask yourself, is the business that this person is in primarily on the retirement industry, financial services? Or is this just something they do because they have other business from me? It's very important that you choose someone who can fill the needs of your investment professional, and also that can provide you with the advantages of someone whose primary business is investments. Those CITs that we mentioned earlier, the low-cost share classes that we mentioned earlier, a lot of those come with size. You have to meet certain assets under management in order to get some of those lower cost share classes. You're not going to have that if that's not the primary focus. The third thing we would recommend is making sure that this person truly is independent. Can they move from record keeper to record keeper with you? If you decide that you don't like the record keeper that you're working with and you want to change, does that mean you also have to change your advisor? Or are they going to be able to help you do benchmarking and due diligence and review these providers and make the decision to move? Also, obviously, you want them to have their own investment policy statement, which clearly defines their role as a fiduciary. And it's also important that they have the ability to customize their plan lineups for all plan sizes. As your plan grows, you want your advisor to be able to grow with you. Next slide, please. Okay, so an investment manager is going to work with you on your lineup. One of the questions you want to ask yourself when you're talking to someone that you're considering hiring is, will they take your current lineup and take the responsibility for mapping you over to a different lineup? And if you're changing record keepers, will your investment professional provide your record keeper with the mapping of the assets? And obviously that includes the QDIA, which is question number 7. Will they create and execute mapping instructions, whether it is a like-to-like, in other words, one fund A to fund 1, or everybody going into the QDIA and then doing meetings to ensure that your participants have the tools at their disposal to be able to make investment elections. You want to know whether or not they are going to help you implement those fund changes. There's a whole breadth of responsibilities that a financial advisor or investment manager can take. They're not required by law to do it, but they can. You're going to want to ask them, which of these tasks will you take on? Are you going to sign fund change instructions for me? Are you going to review participant notices for me? Are you going to call the record keeper and make sure that they have dealt with any residual dividends that might have hit? Those types of things. You want to make sure that you clearly understand what your financial professional is offering you in exchange for the fee that you're going to pay them. You also want to ask them if they have any current or pending regulatory or administrative actions against them. You want to make sure that they maintain the adequate insurance. Plan sponsors are required to have an ERISA fidelity bond. Some financial professionals also will get an ERISA fidelity bond. They're not required to have it, but they will get it. But they are required to have errors and omissions insurance. And you want to make sure that the amount that they carry is adequate for the amount of assets that they manage. And that will be disclosed to you in all of the, they have an ADV that they have to give you. And if you have a company like Dalbar, which Leafhouse does, that will be included in their report as well. Which brings us to the last suggestion, which is that you check and see if your investment manager has an independent certification from anyone outside of their company, an industry professional that will attest to the quality of services that they provide. If you follow this checklist, it will help you make sure that your current advisors are meeting your needs. And also if you're interviewing for a new advisor, this will help you make sure that you get a person who can meet the needs of your plan. Okay, Lisa, next slide, please. So questions. I do have a few questions that we typically will get that I'm happy to share with all of you. I don't see any Q&A questions, so I'll go ahead and share those. The number one question that we are asked here at Leafhouse is, if I'm sued, who goes in front of the judge? And the answer varies depending on whether you have a 321 or 338. Obviously, everybody's going in front of the judge, right? The plan sponsor is going to have to be there. The investment professional is going to have to be there. If you have a 321, they are going to say, these are the recommendations that I made. This is why I made them. The plan sponsor needs to explain to you why they decided to go with my recommendation. The plan sponsor will say, this is the research that I did, and this is why we made the decision to listen to or not listen to the advice of our 321 co-fiduciary advisor. If you have a 338, it's a little different. The plan sponsor will go in front of the judge and say, Judge, I hired a 338 investment manager. I reviewed them. I did my due diligence, and they were independently certified, and they gave me quarterly reports, and they did the job that I paid them to do, and their fees were reasonable. 338 investment manager, please explain to the judge why you put the funds into my plan that you put and why you changed them when you changed them. And the 338 will make their case. Just for the record, Leafhouse does not have any pending litigation or past litigation, but that is how it should work. Another question that we get is, can the same person be both a 321 and a 338? So 321 and 338 are different roles. A financial advisor can certainly do 321 services or 338 services for different clients, but typically they're going to pick one or the other. Usually if someone is a 321, they're not going to offer up fiduciary services, but they can. It's not a licensing requirement. A 338 fiduciary obviously is going to have different requirements and different obligations. It's going to be in writing exactly what it is that they're supposed to be doing for you and their fiduciary responsibilities. So you're not typically going to see someone who is both 321 and a 338. The other question that we get quite often is, does it really matter how big of a company my investment manager is with? As I pointed out earlier, sometimes you can get a lower cost share class with a fund company if you have enough assets under management, if you're able to meet their requirements for a lower cost share class. And so, yes, it does matter. Size is not everything. You can get a great financial advisor with a smaller company. But at Leafhouse, we leverage our size to help our clients get lower cost investments. And so it can make a difference. Another question that I often get is, how do I know if my advisor provides some of the services like participant education, plan design consultation, helping with third-party vendors, etc. And the answer is you just have to ask them. Ask them, are you going to provide these services? Are you sitting down one-on-one with my employees and helping them decide how to utilize the investments in the retirement plan? Are you going to participate in our committee meetings every quarter, every other quarter, once a year, however often you have them? And they will let you know. And then you just have to hold them to that. You said you would provide us with participant education every quarter, and we need to make sure we get that scheduled every quarter. Obviously, just like a 316, not all 321 or 338 advisors offer exactly the same services, just like all of them don't charge exactly the same fees. So just make sure that you ask them what services they're going to provide, and make sure that they give you your money's worth. And then the last question that I have that I'm often asked is, how often should I perform my due diligence and reviewing my service providers? Most plan sponsors will perform their due diligence at least annually. The bigger the plan and more complicated the plan, obviously, the more often you're going to need to meet and review things. Some people will look at plan information quarterly. Some of them will combine it with other tasks, but most people do it once a year. And then a lot of people will benchmark their providers. In other words, look at their fees and the services they're providing and compare them to others. Every couple of years, probably every 2 to 3 years, they'll look at whether or not they're still getting a good deal for their money. It looks like we do have one question in the Q&A, wanting to know who to contact for more information. If you'd like to talk to me some more, you can just reach out to Leafhouse. Elke, could you maybe provide us information for Definiti? Sorry, I'm not hearing Elke. So
I was looking for the camera button. So yeah, thank you, Renee. So for those of you who are already with Definiti as your TPA, if you have questions about the 316 service, the best thing to do would be to reach out to your current retirement plan consultant. They are most familiar with your plan and will have some good guidance on who to talk to and arrange that conversation. Someone asked earlier about prices, and sometimes that's all dependent upon the number of people in your plan and the number of eligible employees. So it's always best to go back to your RPC to get more information, and they'd be happy to help you. Renee, as far as Leafhouse, we will make sure that contact information is shared with those of you who have attended today. I also had a question about slides and the recording. So this session is recorded. We will make it available on the same place where you went to go and register today for the webinar. And we hope to have those up in the next couple of days. We'll send you an email as soon as that session is available. We also have a couple of different 316 resources that we can share with you through your RPC. So contact them, let them know that you want to know more about Definiti's 316 services, and we'd be more than happy to get you connected with Melanie and her team or somebody on the sales team to assist with all the necessary machinations that need to go along with that. So we will be sure to share that information with all of you. Thank you, Renee, for coming and for Leafhouse being a part of the Definiti 401k class today. Obviously, lots of questions about 316, 321, 338. I know I learned a lot today, and I hope you did too. Just wanted to take a minute to say thanks again to Melanie and Renee and Dana for participating. For those of you on the call today, look forward to tomorrow. If you thought today was great, wait until tomorrow. We're just going to continue on down this list of helping you get really acclimated with getting your retirement set up. So the next thing for tomorrow will be on cash balance plans. How do you operate them? How do you fund them? How do you make sure that you're thinking about all of that? Then on Thursday, we're going to talk about cybersecurity. Right. So Monday, Tom Galliard was here to welcome us all into the class. He'll be back in on Thursday to talk to us specifically about how Definiti is making sure that our commitment to cybersecurity is clear, how we're protecting plan data. And then we'll also have a couple of our plan partners, our sponsors, help us kind of talk about how they protect participant data as well. So that's going to be an important one to attend on Thursday. With all that said, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Your questions were great. Really appreciated the conversations and the presentations that were shared today. And we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining in today. We'll see you later. Bye, everybody.